I've spent a lot of time recently speaking about the concept of human life value and also talking about the devaluation of the US dollar and runaway debt in this country from a government level. Consumer debt, household debt is kind of at an all-time high. There's a lot of different variables that are going on, and at the end of the day, what I believe we have is a culture issue. And there's a lot of financial pundits out there like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman and a lot of different people with a lot of different opinions, but the bottom line is I don't think it's an argument that we are in worse shape from an economic standpoint in our country now than we have ever been, especially since the institution of the Federal Reserve in 1913. And so what I want to do in this video is I want to talk about our culture. I want to talk about life insurance. I want to talk about savings. I want to talk about mindset, about what we do with our money. And I'm going to build some bridges and correlations that I think are going to help make a lot of sense on why I believe life insurance is such an important part of the financial fabric of our country. And hopefully, as I do this, it'll make sense. And if you have any questions, engage in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Let's go. Hey, what's up, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and today we are talking about human life value. Now, I just spent a little time going through this book, The Pirates of Manhattan by Barry Dyke. If you don't have this book, you need to get it. It is a wealth of resources. This is the book that basically exposed the Wall Street cartel, effectively, of controlling our money, controlling your money, Main Street's money, basically shifting your money and taking your money and making it take more risk while they simultaneously had money with insurance companies to keep their money safe. And they did it. This book, by the way, was written right before the Great Recession in 2008, and it proved out to be true in a lot of ways. He's written a follow-up book to this, which is The Road to Serfdom, The Pirates of Manhattan, The Road to Serfdom, which had a lot of amazing additional information that followed the Great Recession. And in this book, though, I was actually going through this book because I was watching a reaction video, or watching a video between Dave Ramsey and an infinite banker that I'm actually going to be filming a reaction video to. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. You're going to get notified. I'm gonna launch that video. I watched him do a debate with an infinite banker, and it was honestly pretty horrible. The infinite banking guy, the advocate of infinite banking, did a really poor job, and I see why Dave Ramsey, like, these are the videos that he makes public because he picks on people that don't know how to defend the position. And so I'm going to react to that video and give my position. But one of the reasons that I'm doing it is because I was going through this book talking about the fact that banks utilize whole life insurance as a tier 1 foundational asset. And as I was kind of flipping through the pages of this book, I found a statistic, and it is very alarming and is very in alignment with something else that I've been thinking a lot about, which is human life value, which is our economy, which is thinking about what is the direction that our country is going. And I saw a statistic that was alarming, to say the least. And what I did is I drew it all out here behind me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my board, and we're going to make this make sense. And this is basically, you can see here, this is basically breaking down what year is it. We have the year, total US population, new life insurance purchases, and the total percentage of the population that owns life insurance, right? That purchased life insurance, that has life insurance. And so when we look at this, we have 1940. If we think about it, I don't think it's obviously the 40s, we had World War II. The 50s and 60s were a pretty thriving time in our country. 1971, we went off the gold standard, and I could say culturally, we started to slide. Values started to slide. We went away from the family core value kind of structure and started to slide away from that. 80s, end of the 70s, early 80s, when qualified plans got created and people started shifting away from life insurance companies as a whole because they were duped and marketed to that we need to be putting more money into our investments and get money away from our safe money. And so this is when, right in this window right here, is when, right here, right, 1979, 1980, 77 through like 81 is ultimately when it happened, is when basically the government kind of went away from the defined benefit program and went to defined, and away from the pension system to the retirement planning system that we know it with 401ks and IRAs and qualified accounts and stuff of that nature. And it was a shift away from utilizing insurance companies as a foundational part of our planning because, make no mistake about it, insurance companies are the companies that manage the pension plans, and it went into the banking system, and it went to these private investment and equities firms. And it's, in my opinion, it is a big grab of control during this window right here. I'm going to draw this green line all the way across because I think it's a really pivotal time. And it started to happen a little bit before that, but it was in the 70s was the kind of like slow slide down. Now, here's what I want to show. 1940, I'm going to use the green highlighter to kind of show some stuff. Total US population was 150 million. New life insurance purchases almost 18 million, which was 11.8, almost 12% of total population buying life insurance. So think about this from a perspective of values, right? Like, what do we believe we're using life insurance for? And if we think about it from the purpose of utilizing life insurance is to A, provide safe, liquid, accessible capital for ourselves. This is how people used to use it on a regular basis. It's kind of sad that it takes people like me at this point in time to re-educate people to go back to like a throwback financial strategy. These, like, a lot of times people think that, hey, like, this idea of utilizing life insurance and the way that we preach about it is this new concept. No, it just seems new because of all the social media things that are happening in the world, right? Like, at the end of the day, what we're doing is not new. It may look good because the infinite banking and the cash flow hacking and the cash flow banking and the becoming your own banker and the bank on yourself and all these different terms and phraseologies that people utilize whole life, that people utilize to market the use case of whole life insurance in your life in that way. But the bottom line is this has been happening forever, right? The only reason that we're having to market it like this is because it went away. And thank goodness we're able to have a platform now that's able to get away from the major marketing machine of people advertising on CNN and Fox News and NBC and ABC and all these places that like force you into mutual funds and reprogram your brain on what to think and what you need to be doing with your money and how you need to kind of be in this world to accomplish your financial goals. Because I don't think it's any argument that, if we look at the financial results of like the standard of living of what people have done for planning and retiring and creating during this window of time, it's been kind of atrocious, right? Like, I'm gonna undo that so I can have it clean. But like, at the end of the day, we created 401ks in 1980, and 401ks are younger than me. I was born in 1980, and so like, or I guess they're the same age as me. And so when we look at that and we look at the results that people are having right now, working the first group that's used whole life insurance as their primary source of retirement income or primary source of saving and investing for retirement, it's shown up and it's been a catastrophic failure. 95% of the people are hitting retirement and don't have enough money to be able to maintain their standard of living. That is just, to me, a horrible statistic. So when I look at these statistics and I think about, like, all right, culturally speaking, back in 1940, 11.865, almost 12% of people had purchased new, a total percent of the population had life insurance. In 1950, it went up to 13%. 1960, it was still about 11.5%. Still good numbers, but 1970, you could see it dips to 9.71. And then when the marketing machine of 401ks and qualified accounts and all this stuff started kicking in, went down to 7.5, 5.7, 4.7, and 4.8. Now, here's the deal. I just am a believer. If everybody was born and their parents bought them a permanent life insurance policy, it's one of the reasons I can't stand Dave Ramsey's perspective is he, and I'm going to react to this in the video. He goes, the Rockefellers, everybody markets the Rockefellers would use whole life insurance and they would never do that. That's not what they do. I got news for you. That is what they do. I had a conversation with Garrett Gunderson, who wrote the book, What the Rockefellers Do. Garrett met with the woman that runs the family office for the Rockefellers, and she said straight up, they use whole life insurance. It is a key foundational component to their entire family structure. I don't think it's an accident. And when we look at this, I think the reduction, as you could see, the reduction in the percentage of total population owning life insurance all the way down to 4.28% in 2004. Now, I'm using Barry's information. I haven't looked this information up. I'm actually going to ask Barry to come back on the show. Barry, if you're watching this, I know you've been on the show a couple times. I love you, man. I think you're amazing. Love to get you back on the show and we could talk about this. But I think this is a microcosm of our culture in our country. And And I think it's a microcosm of a lack of financial education, a lack of financial stewardship, a lack of legacy planning, a lack of our responsibility of what we, what we have as an obligation to leave the next generation. When Dave Ramsey tries to talk people into getting term insurance, well, term insurance falls off at some point in time. Term insurance is a very selfish act because it only provides your insurance for a short period of time. Now, don't get me wrong. I love term insurance. I have term insurance. I think everybody should have it. I'm not saying it's selfish from the fact that obviously you're buying it not for you, you're buying it for your family, but you're doing it to try to get the most for the least. And I don't know where in life anybody ever believes you're going to get the best value for the least price possible. It just doesn't work that way. Everything is done actuarially, right? Like, so if you're going to buy a term policy, just use common sense. If you're going to buy a term policy, the cheapest of the cheap is probably going to have the worst benefits, right? It's going to have the shortest time frame. It's going to have, all these different things that you have to consider that are not going to be to your benefit. And so what we have to do here is we have to take into consideration, like, what can we put into place for a plan to make sure that our financial strategy and our legacy planning is taken care of. And the thing is, back in this time frame, this was like when whole life insurance was at its peak, and our financial stability as a country was better than it's ever been, right? That was the heyday of productive value, of contribution, I would say, of a lot of elements of culture in our country, and so, a lot of people I know are going to disagree with me on that. They're going to say that we've had a lot of growth and we've had a lot of change, and I would just say we probably have a difference in values, and that's okay. And I honor everybody's different opinions and respect all those different takes. But I think this right here, when I look at this 4.28%, when we have 300 million people with 12 million policies compared to 150 million people with 17 million policies, we had more people having life insurance then than we do now. And we have twice the population almost than we did back then. And so when you look at it through that lens, I think it's a function of so many people just believing and being duped into believing they can rely on the government to take care of them. And I would argue that we have a responsibility to take care of our families, not let the government take care of our families. And if we do this, when we're talking about all the debt that we have from a household perspective, this is a way that we can guarantee. And if you follow the system, is one of the reasons I love doing what I do and teaching what I teach and preaching what I preach, is the fact that we have a chance. It's not too far gone. I know a lot of people believe it's too far gone. It may be a little too far gone for the government, but we can't worry about the government. I always kind of talk to people and that freak out about what's going on with the world, what's going on with the world's reserve currency and the government and the debt and the politics and all this stuff. You can't worry about that. Believe me, I used to spend a lot of my time wrapped up and absorbed in thinking about politics. We can't think about that. All we can think about is what we could do for our own little ecosystem. I call it a microeconomy. You have your own little microeconomy that you have to manage. You have to rule. You have to do the best you can do with it. And if you think about it and you realize, like, okay, if I'm part of, the 95.72% of people that don't have life insurance, I'm probably going to get the results of 95.72%. And I don't think it's a coincidence that 95% of people are getting to retirement not able to maintain their standard of living, when ironically 95.28 or 95.72% of people don't have life insurance. And so I think it's a function of culture, a function of beliefs and values, and what we're putting our attention and money and energy into. So hopefully you found value in that. Hopefully it makes sense. If you have any comments, any questions, comment in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Till next time, have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.